Hey, what's up everybody? BDO44 coming at you with another video. Alright, so I figured I'd do a little mouth running as usual. Um, you know, I think it would be very easy if I remembered what I was going to say before I turned on the camera, but I forgot exactly what the point was going to be, so I'll just jump into some Lakers stuff and see where it takes me. Um, so the LA Lakers, of course, are still on the clock in regards to a trade. We got to figure something out, even if that means doing nothing at all if you see too much garbage being presented to you for your picks and stuff like that. I have no problem with the Lakers just ultimately not overpaying for anything. What I think I want to see the Lakers do, though, is try to rearrange the roster a little bit, regardless if they move any more pieces or just kind of sort the roster out a little bit more in regards to shaking some things up like I've suggested in the past, waiving some people, things like that. You just got to make your roster a bit more talented, and I think we have opportunities to do that in the buyout market, even if a trade doesn't take place. So that's what's on my mind. Now, I remember exactly what I was going to say. It's come back to me. I can stop filibustering. I had an epiphany about Patrick Beverley's usage and why he gets so many minutes on this basketball team. The trade that got him here. You got to try to justify a bad trade. And that's exactly what that was when we sent Stanley Johnson and THT to Utah for his services, expiring contract. That was a terrible decision because what made it work was the fact that THT was on a quote-unquote bad contract based on our decision to pay him that bad contract. And that's where the true error was. Because a player of THT's age should never have been on a contract like that in the first place. So thus, taking him on was going to cost you like a salary dump. So you're going to inherit the ability to develop a player at a high salary, and nobody would ever want to do that. Except for a team that has salary, just in overload and is in a full rebuild. And most of the players that they have are playing on major discounts. So you look at the Utah Jazz and you say, okay, if you're their GM Danny Ainge, yeah, sure, I'll take on Stanley Johnson, a player that maybe can be flipped again really quick, and maybe take on THT's bad contract, sorted into the rest of my situation with my cap, given the fact that I have all that cap space. And I got this timeline where it's a bunch of young kids. We're hoping to get even younger. So let me take on this guy, see what he can do for me. Put myself in a position to also take on an opportunity to get rid of Patrick Beverley's contract, since I just traded for it and don't really need it with my timeline. This is what I can get, a young player. And if THT turns into something, that contract goes from a bad contract to a good one really quickly. And most importantly, he's a wing. And in this league, you pick up not only him, but Stanley Johnson, two wings, and you know that they're in the premium. So, they ended up waiving Stanley Johnson, and he ended up going to San Antonio. But this is a situation where, if you were the Los Angeles Lakers, you could use Stanley Johnson. Now, maybe THT you didn't mind moving on from, especially at that price. But having never put him at that price, that's another young talent that you found that had some real upside. It's just this mismanagement stuff. And this is what I was talking about in regards to the video I made earlier about Kyrie Irving. It's like, we couldn't afford to really make another mistake because we had done so many like this. And so now what they've been doing for the start of the season is trying to justify making that trade for Patrick Beverley, giving up that young talent in THT and that other role player piece that we used in Stanley Johnson. I mean, it was just not a good trade, and now I understand what exactly I've been looking at. That's exactly what we're looking at. Because I'm like, why the hell would they be running small ball? It's not that we're running small ball because they want to see small ball this year necessarily, although I can't explain why we saw it last year just the same, so that doesn't really that still doesn't add up. But it seems like every player at that position is in a position of power based on the mistakes made in acquiring them. Westbrook and also Patrick. Now, Dennis Schroeder's situation is a bit different. I honestly just look at that as he's probably, without looking at the paperwork, he's probably a clutch client, an expiring contract. They probably are trying to get him to a nice long-term deal because of his history with having some really bad free agencies 2 years in a row. It would be devastating to that man if he had a third bad free agency. So I definitely more than overstand his situation because I've followed it more closely than a lot of people have. So I overstand his situation, and I'm rooting for him to get that finally because I know how crappy it's just been. It's just been a bunch of bad luck in a lot of situations since the miscalculation of turning down that contract. You know what I mean? With the Lakers, that was ultimately going to offer him some big money about 3 years ago. So for me, it's like, all right, I know why you give him his minutes. But the most important thing to do is remove all of these different problems. You can't justify mistakes by making a bigger overall mistake by trying to justify playing these guys when it doesn't help your team win. If they play together so many minutes. And it's like you were probably best for leaning on the players that you acquired in ways that were not a mistake. Guys that should be on the floor. And it's like, but you make mistakes to cover up mistakes and thus make more mistakes, which is why people call you incompetent. Like, these are the type of things that you're doing in real time. I mean, the very last game we had was this problem. So, like, as far as I can tell, nobody's really changed anything. And it's like the Rui Hachimura situation, they started off the same way. We traded for him. We got to justify it. Now, me personally, I thought the trade was fine, but that's not the point. They're always thinking about trying to make sure that you understand that they've made trades for this player and therefore they're willing to play him. And it's like, it's not about that. It's about, does it make sense for the coach on the floor? Look, this is how I want the NBA to look at things. And this is my own personal selfish way of looking at it. This is exactly how I want you to look at it. Every piece on the team is a cog from which the coach can use to create various strategies on the floor. It's not a guy that needs to play 25 minutes, because in order to secure the fact that he'll play 25 minutes, you have to betray the strategy in front of you, in theory, because the game is about matchups and players going in that game for reasons that have nothing to do with things the coach can control on the other side. So if you're trying your best to play this guy this many minutes, and he has to be on the floor against so-and-so who he cannot defend, you're not doing him any favors giving him those minutes. The minutes need to be quality, no different than the possessions need to be quality. And this is why I always say we throw possessions away. Athletes, for the highest professional order, don't respect possession to possession. And it's like, I'll never understand it. You know what I mean? You're paid to do the game, and some possessions they completely throw away. And I'm like, look, I know it's not the easiest thing to stay focused. Not everybody is going to be like that. But at the end of the day, if you do things correctly, you get the best results. You know what I mean? And if you do things incorrectly for the wrong reasons, you will double down on mistakes. It's no different than telling a lie and then have to double down on the lie and have to tell another lie to cover the lie. It's the same thing. It's literally the same thing. It's errors. And errors equal subtraction. What does subtraction equal? Deficits. What does a deficit equal? A loss. And so we need to understand that and revamp the entire way they're doing things, because I always say basketball will always trickle down to other things. If you're doing the basketball correctly, the rest of things will work out. But you've allowed the agent games and the billionaire games to overshadow what it is that you're actually doing. And as a result, it doesn't even make any sense. You're looking at it and you can see the manipulation within it, because these things have to take place in a way that betrays the strategy itself. And so as I sit here and I watch this and I'm trying to surmise what I'm looking at, and I'm taking all the information from everything I pay attention to, and I realize this is what it is. It's just a weird hodgepodge of everyone trying to handle their own interests while pretending to be in a team setting. And they all have talent and different types of things that they bring to the game, but they have to be put on the floor a certain way for it to in order for it to make sense. You know, and they have to be able to pick and plug as the game continues to change throughout the 48 minutes. And if you don't do it right, you get what the Lakers have. And it's like I think we're like the example of why to never do certain things. You see the result. It's like, okay, that's their record because they did it that way. And I think people are gonna not do it this way because of us, Lakers. Because it doesn't work, man. You have to get rid of this minutes mentality, and that's what we're gonna call it now. It's the minutes mentality instead of the Mamba mentality. Nah, we're on some minutes mentality, because at the end of the day, it's not about winning, it's not about losing, it's about making sure we justify all these bad decisions we've made. So play these guys their minutes mentality. And facts over feelings, that is not what you can display when this is the case. You can't display it. Because the fact of the matter is, you have a feeling that everybody's going to kick your behind if you don't justify these bad decisions you made. And that's exactly what's running and driving this team. It's them feelings. And I'm like, look, man, if y'all want people to believe in what you're doing, you want LeBron James to stick around and believe in this particular organization, you have got to abandon stuff that does not work. You know what I mean? And you can't double down on it just because you have the agenda of trying to justify bad decisions. Because do you not see that in and of itself is a bad decision that we all see? You know, it's just like I said about Joe Tsai. It's like, bro, don't tell everybody that you actually didn't want to send Kyrie to LA and that's why you took a lesser deal. Don't ever let nobody know that you want nothing like that. If you was on something like that, you certainly don't want the world to know it. But it's one of them situations where it's like, when people don't know what makes them look bad and they just do stuff, they double down on mistakes, and you see what the result is. And like, this is the ineptitude, and you see where it comes from. This is exactly how the ineptitude becomes what it is, because people are hanging on to the wrong stuff. My ego, your loss. My feelings, my loss. That's all it is. And then people put that stuff down and get the W's. See what I'm saying? This is what it is. It is what it is. And it ain't limited to sports. You see, it's all walks of life. So take the example. That's what I'm doing. I'm like, look, this doesn't work. I used to be on some, let's not trade him to the Clippers, not trade him to the Celtics. Now, after today, after what Joe Tsai was on, I'm like, maybe we should be willing to take trades from anywhere and make sure that we just handle our responsibilities so that we can do things correctly, so that we don't have to be a bad team. That's really all it's about. Because these players that are on our team, if they decide that they can find a better situation in one of these other teams, whether they're a rival or not, they're going to make that decision, and it's their right. You know, and there's no feelings involved. And if you got hard feelings, you're just going to have hurt feelings. That's it. So with all of that being said, I hope that I've convinced some people to take a look at some things. You know what I mean? In that regard, I think the NBA needs to just see where they're doing things wrong, man. And there's such an opportunity to be so much more successful if you just get back to the sport itself and let it determine more of what it is that you do. And I know that is risky, but if you continue down this path, in my opinion, it's going to be bad. I think the product is going to get worse. I think it's going to get more and more sappy. And I think the love for the game itself will start to slowly but surely deteriorate here in this country. Now, maybe not other places, because they got a whole other thing going on. But the NBA, if they keep propping this thing up and watering down the sport itself, and no competition arises to stop this, I don't know how good it will do for the league in the long run. I don't know. Because I'm telling you, sappy product and baseless product and lack of competitive product, it can only go so far, man. It can only go so far. Y'all better write some really good narratives. Y'all gotta write some passionate narratives, I'm telling you. Because if the product sucks, people are gonna look away. And it doesn't have to, man. Because there are a lot of great competitive, talented players and a bunch of other players that need to be learning what competitiveness actually is. And once they do, they'll be able to display it as good as anybody who ever has. But the spirit of competition is not in this place, and that's the problem. You're taking it away. That people competing in other areas. You're letting people in that don't have any interest at all in helping their franchises win championships. I don't know what agenda I'm seeing in some of these cases, but it ain't winning. It's like NBA, what are we doing, man? What are we doing? Are we still playing ball? Or are we doing something else? Is this an entirely different type of thing here now? Because the money is so big that it's just like, whatever, just let the money in. I don't know, man. I don't think this was the vision that David Stern had when he wanted the game to go international. I don't think this was it. I think he wanted it to get to a big place, but I don't think he was expecting it to just water down. The bottom to just fall out from underneath it. I don't think that. But this minutes mentality stuff is not working. It ain't. Sports betting. It always comes back around to sports betting, bro. It always does. The minutes. There's a lot of things you can control when you mess around with this type of crap. A lot of things you can manipulate when you control this type of crap. Stumble into a score. If you shape it up properly and you know what you're doing, yeah, you can stumble into a score. That's why I don't bet. That's why I do not bet. Because I already know those who control the room will make sure they control the odds. That's just all there is to it, man. And I'm not foolish as to see this my whole life and then pretend like I haven't seen it my whole life, which is something I think a lot of us do, and as it pertains to this particular thing. But it's all good, man. Everybody's making money, so nobody's tripping. Or some people making money while everybody's trying to. I don't know. It's confusing to me, to be honest with you. But I know one thing, man. We got to start evaluating talent better. We got to start evaluating talent better. Because at the end of the day, if you're thinking that some of these guys should be getting the minutes that you're giving them, the production is telling you otherwise. You know, and that's what it really comes down to for my team particularly. I can't speak for other teams that I don't study as much, but if your guys are playing well and you don't give them minutes, then I think you're missing the point. Like, you're missing the point. It's you don't know what will make you look good. What will make you look good is adjusting out of bad stuff and jumping into things that are good so that you can get the victory. You know what I mean? Just like we say, Russell Westbrook, don't worry about the stats. Don't worry about getting the last shot. Just worry about giving your team what the team needs. Being that engine that accumulates a lot for us. And when you do, you've done your job. You know what I mean? But for the Lakers, it's like they don't understand. It's like, let's double down on the mistake. Let's make sure everyone knows that our mistake wasn't a mistake. No, it is a mistake, see? And the more you play it, the more we see that it is a mistake. What you should do is try to win. And the best way to win is to move away from the mistake you made, accept that it's a mistake, accept that we see that it's a mistake, and that you doing more of it ain't good for that cause. So, of course, what we want to see is you play the stuff that'll help us win. And then from there, we can start heralding you as the guys who may have made some mistakes, but were smart enough to amend out of those mistakes and thus helped us win. And then you'll get the respect and the honor and the love and the support that you're looking for when you double down on mistakes. And it's one of those things where it's like, I just have to word it that way, man. I really do. Because I do believe that it is that simple, but I think it is difficult for people to see a lot of times. And that's okay, you know? I think that's just how it goes. But if we're going to work together to make things better, we have got to strip it all down and talk about the truth and how we're going to get from a foundation from which to build. And that's where it starts. It's realizing where you've gone wrong. It's turning it on its axis and accepting what needs to be accepted. Dust yourself off. I made a mistake. It's cool. I did fine. Now I'm about to make a good decision, and I'm going to take credit for that. Let's get out of this mistake and move on to something that works. It's very simple, man. But it's all about the mind. The mind of the people in charge. If they have to hold themselves as the most heralded people, and they think that the only thing the people around them respect is them doubling down on mistakes, they got to get rid of the people around them. It ain't the mistake that needs to stay in place. It's you needing to move out of that situation. Like I'm not gonna put myself in a room, and this is just me personally. I don't know if everybody can do this or not based on their circumstances, but I'm not gonna put myself in a room where I gotta lie to everybody there. You understand what I'm saying? If I can't be real to you, you're not the right people for me. You around. You know what I mean? And so that's what I afford myself in my life. But if I have to be in those rooms and play those games, it's where the rubber meets the road for my personality. I just don't get it. I don't get it. I want to win. I want to tell you that I see something that doesn't work for what it is that ultimately is the bigger picture, and what it is that I see. It's the sport of basketball, the science of basketball, and how bad these guys want to be compared to so-and-so from the past, and how much these guys are going to hate the kids coming after them, discrediting them, saying they couldn't play, saying that their era was watered down and weak, that all they was after was a buck. They couldn't see us because they wasn't competitive enough. I see it coming. That's going to be their kids and their grandkids are saying that about them. And it's sad because it's going to be true. It's going to be true. Because we was on some minutes mentality instead of that Mamba mentality. You know? Seriously. Gotta make sure he gets his minutes. No, the team that's not doing that is going to get the championships. That's how I see it, man. I don't know if greatness even exists anymore. Golden State might be the last dynasty, man. The way this is going, they control everything. Golden State might be the last dynasty. Because I just feel like they're doing too much at this point to make me feel like anything that happens after this isn't absolutely manipulated. NBA champion, they already got the shirts printed out, probably. They already printed. That's how foul this season has looked to me. And, you know, I just say, man, to double back to where we started, you know, this Patrick Beverley situation, I just don't even think it's the coach anymore. I don't even think it's the coach anymore. Like, he's being told to execute this plan based on these needs that the front office has. And these needs override the logic in place, which should ultimately make it so that you're doing things the right way for LeBron James, because that's what's going to make you look your best in the eyes of everybody else, regardless of what you think of him. The eyes around you are judging you on how he wins in your uniform and how much he wins in your uniform. And so that all this playing Patrick Beverley and Dennis Schroeder and making sure these guys get their minutes, and then being upset at the narrative around the situation, or not reacting well to the trolls that come with it, to me it just seems kind of silly. It seems a little silly because you can do something about it, you know, which is why if you follow me, I've worded it desired results. When I see the Lakers play small ball and lose games, it's like, well, this is what they intended. The intended result. That's how I phrased it. Like, this is what they want. So, you know, if this is not what they want, then they're going to have to understand what ineptitude is made of. And it's made of people doing stuff for the wrong reasons. Joe Tsai, Jeanie Buss. We gotta get together. You know, on our side, the Lakers side, purple and gold side. I don't know what they're gonna do over there. Sounds like they got some things going on that may actually be all right in Brooklyn. For all that we've been talking about, hey, if they can make the moves I'm hearing about, I think they'll land on their feet. But us, you're in shambles. And while our last trade was a good one, I don't know what they're going to do next now that this Kyrie thing didn't go our way. And look, the understanding that I have in regards to the Kyrie situation is this. And I'm talking about in regards to our Lakers, if you overpay, it doesn't work for you. As we said earlier today, they measured it out just right for it to be too much for us to trade for him, so that it would be irresponsible for us to make that trade. Now, if we would have added Russell Westbrook and 2 picks, That was what we had on the table the entire summer. That's what they knew was on the table when they sat down with us. They didn't want that deal because they didn't want Russell Westbrook. And I told people they don't want Russell. They're not going to take him. And so when it became clear that they wanted us to take Ben Simmons or some weird stuff that I was hearing rumored, I was like, there's no way they're taking Russell Westbrook. We'd have to find a third team. And in getting a third team, as someone else mentioned, I don't know who it was, it wouldn't be as easy for them to retrieve the things that they wanted. Which is why I think they got a good return, because I know what it is that they were after. They wanted youthful pieces. Not useful pieces, excuse me. Pieces that can ultimately keep them in contention. The complete opposite, actually. Guys who are already there. And whatever came with that ended up being one first round pick and 2 second rounders, I think it was. But the meat and potatoes was having Dorian Finney-Smith, a fully developed player of the ilk that they value very much, because of course they got Royce O'Neal, who's a similar player, and they traded a first round pick for him. So they value those guys a bit more than maybe the field does. Okay, so when you see it that way, it's like, all right, you see what they are trying to put together, and realistically, it's not all that bad. If they keep on stacking Royce O'Neals and Dorian Finney-Smiths, eventually they're going to be a tough team to mess with. Forget how they got them. That they have them, it's going to be a thing. And then you got Ben Simmons, Claxton. It's becoming a thing. The defense that they're trying to put together over there. And then you got Cam Thomas. Oh my goodness. Did y'all see what he did? 47 tonight, 40-something in the last night. This dude is ready to go. As soon as Kyrie stepped out the door, he said, I'm going to be an all-star, and that's it. And I don't think he's going to turn back. I think this is the beginning of something with Cam Thomas. Now, we've seen stuff like this before with Jeremy Lin and all that. The defense is going to hone in on him. They are. He's not taking nobody off guard. They're going to throw all kinds of double teams or triple teams at him. They're going to shut him down. He's going to have some cold nights. But at the end of the day, if this is what we can expect from him, if he reacts well to them defenses, look out. They might have just picked up their next guy. And they should have been playing him the whole time. This is why you fire Steve Nash sooner, man. You don't keep a bad coach around. Look at this. They had him buried on the back of the bench and he can do this. It's absolutely ridiculous, man. But anyway, that's what I'm saying to you guys. I think with all that they've been doing wrong, they might be stumbling into some good things. So keep an eye on them. But the Lakers. Where are we? That's it. That's what I'm asking us. Where are we? Because that Kyrie Irving thing, yeah, we didn't want to overpay for that particular expiring contract, knowing that re-signing him wasn't going to work. Understand that negotiations went as far as to say they wanted 2 years, $50 million a piece. That's that's pretty steep. I ain't gonna lie. That's more than Westbrook's contract. And I think for me, what I often say is, it's not really about how good the player is. It's that one person takes up that much of my cap and how difficult it is to slide in other talent around that player. That's why I always cringe at how long a big contract like Zach LaVine's is, $35 million. The way I see that is, that's a certain amount of the cap space that I cannot use to get better. So all I see in my head is the scrubs that are attached to the little bit of cap space money that I have to play with to throw out there with those players. And that's why I'm always saying, nah, bad contract, big years, nah. Because in my mind, I see bad players. Because that's what's going to have to play with those big contracts. You know what I mean? And I don't know if I've ever verbalized that, but that's exactly how I see it every single time. I'm like, $47 million, his teammates going to suck. $35 million, how many years? His teammates going to be trash. $18 million for 1 year? Okay, well, he's going to be eating away at some of my talent. It's that kind of thing, man. It's exactly that in my head. So for me, it's like, nah, certain stuff I'm going to skate away from. I don't care how good the player is, because in my mind, if he's at a certain price, his teammates going to be flat. And if his teammates are going to be flat, then I'm going to be leaning on him to stay healthy. So it's not about how talented he is. It's about how durable he is and how many of those $1 million guys going to be good enough to be his backups. Can he sit down for a breather? Can he take a game off? Can he go out for 2 weeks with a rolled ankle without us tumbling down the standings? Not if these players suck. And how many years of that do I have to deal with? 4 years? 3 years? Exactly. That's exactly how I've been looking at it. So I would tell Kyrie Irving, I can't do that. I can't do that. Because I see that as me putting talent on your floor that ain't going to be good enough with you at $50 million, bro. A year? I can't do it. I'm not going to be able to give you enough to keep you healthy. Same thing I said about Portland. Dame Lillard. I'm not gonna be able to do nothing with you at 64, bro. You ain't get no championship like that. Your teammates ain't gonna be good enough. You know what I mean? At the end of the year, when you subbing in some dude that you know ain't gonna be, you can't pass the ball to, it's you that kept me from being able to get a guy that you could pass the ball to by taking that amount. So, like, for me, I'm gonna be cheap because I know what I'm doing. I can't do that. And I know superstar talent puts me over the top, and if I don't have a superstar, I can't win. I might need 3 if I really want to do something. So at some point in time, I have to pay somebody. You know what I mean? I get that. So you just have to discern who you want to pay and how much of that you can pay, and if you can find discounts on good players. If you can find them good little contracts and these second rounders that can really be role players, then you might be able to trust yourself with one of those bigger contracts and think you can do good things with them. But I'm not envisioning being able to do that. I'm envisioning the trouble that comes with having to keep a $35 million for 5-year contract on my books, and how that goes in my head is not so pretty. So I wanted to clarify that as well. That was something I've been thinking about. If anything, the Lakers, at this point, I don't trust anybody. And I know you guys have heard me say it a million times, but I just don't want the front office in place anymore, man. I just don't, man. And if it bothers me to say that, because I think, it's a lot of them probably watch me at this point. But I'm not going by feelings. I'm going by the results. And as I've said over the last 30 minutes, people are doing things for the wrong reason, and I'm just aware of it. Now, I am glad I am, but I think ignorance is bliss. It's a lot easier to enjoy this game when you don't see it the way that I do. But at this point, I'm glad I do, because I have a voice and I can speak against it to a degree. Against it to say, I just want guys to improve stuff, man. I just want the game to improve. And in a way that brings back integrity, brings back this spirit of competition. You know what I mean? And I just really understand this game to be bigger than the league that's displaying it. I know it. It's bigger than the college sport. It's bigger than all of the leagues around the world, because all of the leagues around the world love the game itself. And you'll see the game played in so many different forms. It's not just on the court, running around with a basketball in your hand. You got little guys with video games in their hands and all kinds of little stuff. Learning the sport. Learning the science. Falling in love with what it is that the competition is supposed to be about. You know what I mean? And they're studying great players with their phones in their hands, just like the rest of us are. And they, you know what I mean? They are going to want to win. They're going to come at you with a different competitive spirit than what it is we're displaying right now. Not everybody's going to be on the buddy-buddy culture. Not everybody's going to be on whatever the current culture may be. But at the end of the day, you're still playing the same sport. And you're going to be compared to everybody who ever played it. So, that's who you're going up against. Your own tendencies. The legends. The opponent. And apparently, the structure in this era, in this league. So that's what I have to say, man. A little frustrated by it. Happy that the players are still running around. Glad the league is playing. Definitely hate the lockout. Know that another one could be coming very soon. A lot sooner than we'd like to admit, if they don't get their crap together. But all in all, I assume that the last 2 lockouts scared them. One lockout, one pandemic. And I think they're going to find a resolution that keeps us from having a lockout this time. I think lockout's code red for both sides, and I do not think that either side sees that as an option. It's a bad option. It's the worst option. Whatever the compromise would be is probably a better option, to be honest with you. But I'm not looking at the numbers, so who knows what that actually is. But nevertheless, I do think that the numbers are being manipulated. That's a whole nother aspect of numbers. But nevertheless, I'm just rambling at this point. So that's what I gotta say, man. That's my everything on this particular topic. I think the Lakers are gonna be all right in the end if they just do things correctly. I think the Nets are gonna be all right if they make a trade for a guy like Zach LaVine, or do something that brings them a little more talent. And the Mavericks are gonna have to find themselves some defensive players. Please do not think that you have enough right now. You better booster that bench. get rid of a Bertans or something and get you some real defensive players. By the way, Hardy and Green popped tonight. They both had highly efficient nights. It's something about Kyrie Irving. He leaves one place, the kids go crazy. He goes to the next place, the kids go crazy. I don't know. It's all young players are just popping all around in these situations. But that's what Dallas has been waiting for. That's what they've been waiting for. If they can get Josh Green and Hardy to play like that while Luka's active, that's a dangerous team, man. That's a dangerous team, especially the way those kids played tonight. And that's why I say, don't be so Luka-centric. Don't be so Trae Young-centric. Because you are not developing guys like this. You got Bogdanovich, prime example in Atlanta. He needs his touches. You know, you don't develop these dudes and then they just don't pop. But it's like the only reason why they never popped is because you had these one-man band guys that control the ball the whole damn time. And even if they get assists off, they never let the other guys cook. Let these dudes cook, especially if they're lottery picks, 12th pick in the draft, 13th pick in the draft, like these kind of dudes. Man, let them cook. It's year 3, year 4. It's time for them to spread their wings. It's not time for them to be sitting up watching Luka dance. No. Trade them or play them. And these ain't the only pair. There's plenty of them dudes all over the league. And they stuck in these situations with these dudes shooting 40 shots a game. No. Give them dudes the ball and let them cook a little bit. Because you're going to find out Cam Thomas, Hardy, and Green ain't the only ones. They're not. So I'll leave y'all with that. My name is BDO44. Thank y'all for watching.